Okay, I want to welcome everybody to Dallas Personal Robotics Group's Robot Builders Night Out, or NBV, what is it? RBNV, I believe. So anyway, this is the last day of January of 2023. We've already shot 1/12 of the year already. It's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? All right, so we're recording. So if you don't want to be on the recording, you can hang out, blank your screen, blank your video, and you don't have to talk. But it's always helpful to see who we're talking to. And so far we haven't had any problems with the videos, and so that's we'll continue to record them. All right, so Harold, do you want to start?
Give me a second. I want to show off a
Okay.
web page. I'm having a hard time being able to. I can
Okay.
show it off, but I just can't give you the link yet. So.
Okay. And okay, let me pull up the right. Do you want us to slide you back one?
Yeah.
Mike, you're up.
Which mic? There's two mics.
Well,
Mike Williams, maybe?
We got Mike Williamson.
Yeah, what's going on, Mike? It looks like your name is Michael.
You're Michael.
Oh, Michael. You know,
Right.
I'll go by a lot of names.
And so last week I said I was going to work on putting some mechanism wheels on my little robot base that I cannibalized from my spider, and I got something to show and tell. Let me see if I can get it shown. It's easy to tell, but showing it's the hard part. So I'm plugging the power onto it now.
Okay. Uh-oh, could this be a gold star, guys? Okay, possible. You know what a gold star is, Mike? I don't know if you know. If your robot runs on the ground, you get a gold star for the meeting. There you go.
So it's the mechanism wheel, so it goes backwards and sideways and diagonals.
Mm-hmm. It looks like some of them aren't running it. Maybe it might be just the screen, but
that's great, Mike.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's definitely worth a gold star.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So what I'm having with these mechanism wheels, which are pretty cool, is trying to get the motors balanced. I took some SG90s and modified them for continuous, and I made plastic bearings to hold them into sort of place so they wouldn't be stressing. The wheels wouldn't be stressing the motor that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having the wheels I haven't calibrated the wheels because all the motors and the bearings seem to have different power force ratios or something like that.
Yeah.
So it sort of causes it to, instead of go straight, it sort of has a veering to it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things you're probably with that type of a wheel. I would think if you wanted to go in a certain direction, you probably have to use a gyro.
Yeah, so I have a gyro in here. This is a BLE Sense, a Arduino Nano BLE Sense. So it has a gyro, accelerometer, a compass, but they're not very stable. And so I'm trying to figure out how to use them effectively. So big rabbit hole to go down to.
Mike, one of the things that people here have found is that when you're working indoors, you really need to disable the compass because of things like iron and rebar in the floors and pipes and so forth. That tends to throw off the heading that the gyroscope The gyroscope will drift, of course, because it's being integrated, but the general, I think, consensus has been that running indoors, you need to turn off the compass.
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's basically one of those little tiny sensors on a little chip.
Yeah.
So I assume you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Yes, and typically when you set up the interface, you can tell it what kind of data you want it to send you, and you can tell it there's different modes, and you can tell it whether to combine the gyros and the accelerometers and the compass and so forth, and different ways that those can be. And generally, what you want to do is say, just give me the heading from the gyroscope, and don't try to correct that. But see, when you're outdoors, what happens when the gyroscope drifts, the compass can be used to correct the drift in the gyroscope. So you can think of the gyroscope gives you a real good high frequency data, but over a long period of time, it tends to drift. Whereas the compass, if you'll average it over a long period of time, is pretty good solid reference. So you can use the one to correct the other. But when you're indoors, that compass gets pulled off by all kinds of big metal things that are indoors. And so using it to correct the drifting gyroscope doesn't really work.
Yeah, so I'm using I can't remember the name of the filter package in Arduino.
Is it a Kalman filter?
And the gyro, and it's okay, but it needs calibration. But I noticed that when I calibrated it with no motors moving, I could get it pretty stable. But once I started moving, just rolling the wheels without the machine even moving, it would have a drift. And then I put it on the floor and monitored it, and it was all over the place. So I'm doing. It's a mathematical problem, and I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. Hey, Mike, can you put a link to what type of IMU you are using? You know, you said you had a sensor that's got a gyro and a compass and everything in it. If you happen to have it where you can put it up there, you know, that'll help everybody look, because they may have experience with it.
Because it's that little teeny chip on that BLE board.
Okay.
And it's a DS9, I think. But I have to go look at the exact number.
Okay. Well, can you put just the nano board where you got the nano board on the link on the
right.
If you can, that'll help everybody discuss it. They might not do it tonight, but to be able to do it later, you know, they can look it up.
Right. So basically, it has all the right words in the descriptions and everything, but then when you look at the YouTube tutorials and everything, it's really hard to use those things and get them stable because they drift and they get affected by motors turning on and off and motion and so I've been warned that it's a really hard problem to solve.
Yeah, well, a lot of us, what we do is there is a well-known sensor that does all of that type of calculation on board, and it's very useful, and you might want to look it up. It's called, and I'll put it in the chat. It's I will if I can get it over here. Let's see, here it is.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe need to upgrade my sensor.
Well, I mean, no, well, that would make it probably easier on you.
Right.
It's called the BNO 055 by Bosch. CH. Bosch.
Yeah.
CH. I don't know how to spell Bosch.
And this is a
BAUSH. No, BOSCH. BOSCH.
BOSCH. Okay. All right. So that you might want to look that one up. That's probably considered one of the top IMUs. Okay, right now for hobbyists. and non-hobbyists too, but for us. There's a couple others that have come out recently, but that's the one and most of the people in the club use for their outdoor robots. Okay, and you're using, okay, ooh, I'm not familiar with that one. We'll have to go look that one up.
Basically, LSM 9DS1.
Yeah.
It's a sensor used on the Nano BLE.
Okay. Yeah, but if it has, you said it had does the program incorporate a Kalman filter?
It puts out the raw data, and then you have to, and then there's other Arduino libraries that manipulate the data.
Okay.
So the Kalman filter itself runs on the Arduino?
No, I think this is I believe this is it's not like a Atmel chip. It's like it's like
a huge ARM.
It's an ARM chip.
And dual cores and 100, 200 megahertz and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can handle it.
Even so, there's some latency.
Oh yeah.
If the sensor is not doing it itself.
Latency.
That's true. Yeah.
The sensor collects all the data synchronously, so when you read the data, they should be aligned in the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and then get to the filter.
Well, we'll be interested to hear your report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I need to look at the other one and see something. Yeah. So it's a big rabbit hole to jump down. So that's what I'm working on. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Everybody.
Well, Mike, Kalman filters are a very, very deep rabbit hole, and everybody has their own take on this. My own personal take is that I've narrowed down the number of things that I think I can become an expert on, and that one's just not on the list. Yeah. But I'm willing to pay somebody else who is an expert on it to give me a finished solution.
Yeah.
It's the Madwick AHRS filter in the Arduino library, and I think it does use a Kalman inside of it, but it's just a motion filter that it's all pre-programmed, but it seems to have a drift to it and stuff. So.
Well, if it's got a drift on the IMU if it's sitting there, just sitting there.
No, he said it was when he ran the motors.
But if you calibrate the drift out when the motors aren't running, and I got the robot on its platform so it's not moving, and I move the motors, then it starts drifting by a small fraction of a degree per second, like 0.1 degrees per second.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I know that I have earlier before I just bought a BN 0055. Before I did that, I know I used, if the movement is less than a certain amount, I would have it subtracted from the reading, and I would keep a register of all of those subtractions. So it was a number that just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it would subtract it, and that really helped with the drift. But obviously, I didn't think it was a very elegant solution, but it did work. Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. That's, like I say, you got one gold star tonight. That's good start. Okay, Harold, you back yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are gonna think I'm crazy. I tell you this.
Well.
Yeah, but where did we go? And let me get you the link so you can go ahead and start looking at it. So this, I've been doing the Twitch streaming, and a friend of mine got up and been watching me and doing things and saying a few things, and with his robots and stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's the link to the page I'm showing. Virgin Orbit. We know who Virgin is, Sir Richard, you know.
Yeah.
And J Space Pointer with this outfit out of Korea, I think. He comes into my thing, and this is his question to me. Harold, did any of your robot buddies want to send anything to low Earth orbit? Okay.
Sure, why not?
Nobody fell on the floor, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's something everybody's kind of thought it would be a cool idea, but probably didn't have time to do.
Well, that's some of the things. So he's got a partner. Let me tell you, this young man, I say young man, I've known him since before he could drive. I say young man, he's got gray in his beard now. Just hangs out with Sir Richard in a hot tub. Not anything untoward going on, but still, I got a picture of him in a hot tub with Richard. And he goes, well, it's only $50,000 a kilo to send something up, and we can get some sponsorship. Now, what I know about this individual is that is not the craziest thing I've ever heard him say and pull off.
Yeah.
So when he's legit. So this is kind of what I was saying. If we can come up with an idea and things to do, something to measure, whatever, I bet the chances are not zero. I can't say they're large, but they're not zero that we could probably get sponsorship and all that kind of stuff to send something to low Earth orbit and measure something and send some stuff back and have robots in space or something.
Harold, how high is low Earth orbit?
I do not know. I do not know the answer to that.
I mean, is that, 100 kilometers or is that 1,000?
I'm guessing something like that. I'll have to ask him. I didn't ask.
I think it's about 300 to 500 miles.
Is that?
I'm happy to hook you up. I'm happy to invite him in. I'm happy to do any of that kind of stuff if we have enough interest. Because he does a lot of things. Travels the globe. I can't even list the number of things he's done. They're like, oh wow, you did that? Yeah, man, I was just messing around. Did the thing. He's one of those kind of people.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so, Dave, let me break in here a little bit, Harold. Hey, Dave, does this have anything to do with Raspberry Pis?
It might.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know if you heard him earlier, Harold, but David, one of his geologist buddies, came in and asked him about if he knew anything about Raspberry Pis, which sounds like a project. So, could be.
It does. So, like I was saying, I didn't know who the spider and who the fly was in that particular thing there. No, but I mean, I'm throwing it out there. Okay. The thing is, they're trying to get a launch sometime in 2024. So it's not like it's tomorrow. 1,200 miles above the Earth or less.
Or less. Okay.
I got you.
Okay. Miles?
Yes.
1,200 miles or less.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. I mean, I don't know if we have an idea. Obviously, this is just something that's a possibility. I was looking, what was Cam, the guy that does the Iron Rain folks down there? I thought they might have some interest in maybe come up as well. And I could certainly hook them up with this, and whether they get sponsorship or not. He goes, man, it's only $50,000. We can get it sponsored. And I'm like, what? It's $50K, man. I don't know. It's just people have different perceptions of the world.
Oh yeah.
And for me, I mean, at any given time, $50 is sometimes a hard time I'm trying to figure out how to get, let alone 50,000.
Yes. Well,
so, I told you you'd think it was crazy, but this is not the craziest thing this guy said.
Okay.
So, Kareem. If Kareem and his Iron Rain folks or something has a deal on it, I'd be happy to hook anybody up. Or if we're going to do something to the club, more than happy to hook anybody up and any group of people up with Jeremy, and put you two together and see if you can come up with something.
There was somebody in the Dallas Makerspace talk that brought up this subject, seeing if anyone was interested in trying to get something launched into orbit. So there may be somebody there that might be interested.
That would be good. That's another one, David. That'd be a good idea.
Well, what would we want to do up there? I mean, is it like trying to sense something about the Earth, or just perform some experiment in weightlessness, or?
I think it could be either.
No,
Something else.
I agree. It could be a very large universe of things. I'm trying to reduce the size of that universe.
Well, since we're a robotics group, is there something robotic wise that we may be interested in?
I wonder if we'd have any space to try to maneuver, or if it
Well,
just.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
know.
you could propose a robot that will crawl around the skin of the aircraft looking for micrometeorite damage.
Well, that's what I meant by room to maneuver.
Yeah.
Or are we just going to be locked in a particular position inside the vehicle?
I know that a lot of these type projects, they have some sort of standard satellite. They call them mini satellites or something, and they're not very big. They're I think they're smaller than say a basketball, and it's a kind of I'm afraid since it's not something that I thought I'd be involved in, I didn't pay a lot of attention. But there's kind of a standard, and it helps them with the payload. It's a certain weight. It can't be a certain size and all this stuff. I think it would be interesting to see how you can make something that would work at 100 miles or 200 miles up in the air.
Also at least back in the before time, when we did projects like this through JPL, the launch is a really violent, vibrating thing. And long before you were allowed to do that, you had to put it on this shake table, and they shake the shit out of it and see if it comes apart, which it normally does.
Yeah.
So I don't see how all that could be done between now and 2024.
Yeah. Again, I'm throwing it out there, and I'm with you, David. There's a lot of steps. I mean,
Radiation.
balance, vibration, hardened against the radiation that's going to be up because we don't have this nice, wonderful protection layer that we do down here.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Pretty harsh.
Well, I know one of the projects a friend of mine did, basically what they did was, now this is back in the days with, this is pre-microprocessor days, okay? They did just soldered point-to-point wiring, this big thing just out in space, with transistors and resistors and stuff hanging out there. And then they put that all in a box and filled it up with that styrofoam stuff, that liquid styrofoam stuff. And that's the way they were able to survive the shake table. I also think there's a law about how dense you can be, how many, pounds per square inch or something like that, or cubic inch, I guess it is.
Yeah, I would be interested in. I mean, I know that rad hard parts, because I was in the semiconductor industry for a while, 30 years.
A little while.
Anyway, I know that those parts are actually built significantly different. It's not just they go grab some off the shelf and ready, see if they'll survive. It's a little more complex than that.
How did they do that, Doug?
Well, the junction depths and everything are they actually make, in a lot of ways, what's a crappy part, okay? But it works, and it continues to work even when exposed to radiation, because the effects that if you made it normally would degrade. So you would have something that, the more it got, it would just keep going down, and until it finally failed. And leakage is always the problem, So.
Well, did they do something like, is it, all inside some kind of shield or something?
No. Well, okay. I'm not a packaging expert, so I'm sure that there were things that they could do in the shield. in the package, but what I was aware of was more on like how they built the part, you know. And like I say, the parts themselves were not really, sometimes they were not what we would call really stellar parts. And you would say, oh boy, that's crappy performance. But the problem was it was stable performance. And it was because the design was optimized to be able to resist radiation. Not
Harold, I noticed that Kareem has logged in. Maybe you should tell him.
maybe you ought to tell him.
Hey, Kareem,
Yeah.
you looking at my screen right there?
I will. Let me pin it.
Hey, you see my little picture there?
Yeah, JSpace.
J-Space Partners have merged with their done a partnership with Virgin Orbit. You know, the people that go into space.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who has a hookup that can talk to Sir Richard directly, and
Really?
he asked me yesterday on my stream if I knew anything or anybody, specifically the robotic group here, that might be interested in sending something robotic into space. And I said, I don't know about that, Doogie. That's pretty. I call him Doogie because he used to look like Doogie Howser. We're still kind of. I said, I don't know about that, Doogie. But he goes, I go, isn't that kind of expensive? He goes, yeah, it's only like 50,000 a kilogram, but I'm sure we can get that sponsored. And this is the kind of guy that has sponsored some crazy stuff. This is not the craziest stuff I've heard him come up with. You guys run around Dallas. I'll give you an example. Run around Dallas. You know the red horse that used to be on top of the Dallas that got
The Pegasus, yeah.
Pegasus, right? This is the guy that found it in an old warehouse that he was just cleaning out, doing something, and refurbished it and got it back in front of the Omni. So, I mean, he runs into stuff and does big things. So,
let me correct you slightly there, Harold. I think you said kilograms when you meant pounds.
pounds. Is it pounds?
Well,
Okay.
pounds as in pounds like dollars, not pounds like kilograms.
Oh, okay. I forget what it was. He gave me a thing, you know, we're back and forth, and that was what I remember in my head. So there's.
But it would take $50,000 to put a small package into low Earth orbit, and he would find somebody to provide that $50,000.
Yes, and he said we can probably get sponsorship.
If we had an idea about what to put up there, is that
Yep.
what I'm hearing?
He's looking for a launch sometime in 2024. Is this what they're queuing up things? So, I figured you and your Iron Rain and your very creative people there, students may have an idea that we haven't yet to come up with. So,
Well, even if it hardly did anything, we want to compare one kind of gyroscope against another.
Sure.
I mean, just for the kids to have on their resume that they put something in low Earth orbit.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to connect anybody up directly with. His name is Jeremy McCain. I call him Doogie because again, he looks like Doogie Howser. That's how I've known him since Doogie Howser came. I mean, literally, I've known him since before he could drive. And,
Wow.
You know, so yeah, he's up there doing all these things. So if you want me to hook him up, I can give you his name. Send me an email. I think you got my email address. If not, I'll put it in the chat real fast.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk with him, see what shakes.
Pretty cool opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep, that's my email address. Send it on. Send me some contact however you want me to contact. Tell him to contact you guys.
Okay.
And I will forward it on to them. Yeah, something like this doesn't come around every day, right? So maybe-
Absolutely, that would be a stellar opportunity.
maybe one day it'll come around every day, but that day will not be tomorrow, right?
Especially if he said he can find somebody to cover the cost.
Yeah, he believes he can. He believes he can.
Wow. So it'd be just one of those mini, what are they called? Those little satellites?
Mini sats or something.
Mini-sat, microsat. There's
Yeah.
a name for them. I think it's something different than that. But yeah.
Yeah, Doug couldn't think of it either.
Yeah. CubeSats. That's it. Yeah.
go.
They mostly call them CubeSats for some reason.
CubeSats.
Their size. Yeah.
They're cubic.
And satisfied.
Kareem, you're saying it would be a top flight opportunity for your.
Yeah. It would be out of this world, man. While I'm talking, I'll jump in for
Do
because
my
it's
good.
just really short. I just wanted to say thanks again to all of the advice that we've received from the group. They had their tournament, their league tournament this Saturday, and they took the first place Inspire Award, so they're on to regional championship.
Yay!
And so they were competing against 33 teams at this tournament, and just again wanted to say thanks for all of the guidance you've provided them.
How did the robot do out on the field, though?
Well, that's our forever story. So they were once again up against the deadline. They were not in the position where they wanted to be, and they had to make a choice. They ended up deciding to pull an all-nighter the night before and actually finish the new chassis, the carbon fiber one.
Yeah.
But they haven't finished the upper deck yet. So they did a Frankenstein transplant of the old robot's upper deck to the new chassis and undercarriage. They've got this extending arm. I think they showed you last time the design for it.
Yeah.
So they didn't get to the point of putting that second arm on. So they're still mostly relying on the big upper crane, but they've got this. They do have the extending portion for the new underarm, and that basically just serves as a counterweight to and this is the first tournament where they didn't flip over because they have a deployable counterweight. That's not its primary purpose, right? It's mostly to hold a secondary dedicated intake arm, but it worked somewhat. But again, that's like extremely risky, and they did it knowing that it was going to hurt their robot performance. Their drivers had no experience with this funky new platform, and it could have gone absolutely disastrously. It wasn't horrible. They did sort of go back down in the rankings a little bit, but by making that choice, they were able to talk about their new design. If they'd gone with the old robot, they wouldn't have been able to present all that new stuff,
Okay.
that new work. So they took a big risk, and it paid off for them.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Good.
That's great. That's cool.
I thought it was going to be like that old joke about, I don't have to outrun you, Senator. I just have to outrun that bear.
That's right. No, you don't have to outrun the bear, but outrun yeah.
Oh, got it backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
Okay. Well, that's cool. All right. Let's see. Next is Ray, I think.
Okay, I'm going to try something. My phone I can't attach it to my laptop anymore. I think it was some of the Android stuff that I was doing, but I'll try it anyway, see if it works. Go messages, share screen, sharing. Sharing. Okay, let's see if that's all right. Can you see an image of a half disassembled hoverboard?
Okay. I wouldn't have known that, but I do now. I can see it.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay, here it goes. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I've done that before, taking apart one of those.
Okay. I've never seen one at the insides of one, so this is kind of cool.
They're pretty impressively engineered.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We're not hearing you. Well, there you go, Ray.
Oh, darn. For some reason, it just stopped.
Yeah, we had a blinking red light, and all of a sudden the blinking red light just kind of stopped. Oh, there it goes
There
again.
it's going again.
Well, I pretty much recognize all those parts and all the stuff we use every day. In this playing around, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, we're looking at it. Looks like an embedded. It looks like a
The
shielded
speed
ship.
controller. Yeah,
Okay.
there's two speed controllers, one on either side.
Okay.
I'm sorry I had to step away, Ray. What are we looking at?
This
It's
is
the inside of a hoverboard that I got at a Goodwill store for $7.
Oh, nice find.
Is there supposed to be some audio that we're supposed to be hearing, or are you just not choosing not to talk?
Oh, I didn't know you couldn't hear it. Anyway, oh, darn it. Okay. I think, okay, come on.
I just saw over there in the corner, Ray, that you have one of these. Where is it?
yeah, yep, he does.
Oh, I'm hooking up the thing. Can you still see the video?
We're seeing your floor.
Yeah, the floor. I had to put the camera down for a second. Anyway, I hooked up a three-phase brushless motor driver and at least got the wheel to spin. I know those aren't ideal for this. Yeah.
So so are you just feeding in it like a oh God, what do they call it? Like an
It was
like
brushless.
yeah, but are you just feeding in from your? It looked like you had a nano there that you were pulling some DuPont cables to go into to a controller, and so you're essentially feeding a pulse width modulated signal to it.
Yeah. What I did is yeah, like you said, I just had a nano and okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, let me see if I come back here. Okay, now my video is off. Okay. There we go. Okay, yeah, I had a nano, and I was just using the servo library.
Okay.
Because that's what those these little three-phase brushless motor drives have, but this one does not incorporate the Hall effect sensors, so it's basically sensorless.
Okay.
So it's just one of these.
Yes.
And it, I think I bought these probably 2 years ago now, and I thought I could look up the little SKU number and find out some specs for it, but those have disappeared, and I don't know what specs for it are anymore.
Yeah.
So, but I remember that it was it could only handle a 3S, and there was actually I think it was a 6S 2P battery in the unit there, but that battery didn't work. So I just wanted to see if I could get the wheels to spin, and hooked up, found the three-phase wires and basically hooked this up and hooked up a 3S lithium-ion battery to it, and
it worked.
At least got one wheels to spin. I haven't tried the other side, but for $7, they're some pretty heavy-duty, relatively fast-spinning motors that I could take out and use if I wanted to. So,
yeah, and that they can hold some weight too, because they can hold a person.
Yeah, it said, I don't know if you heard it, but on the label it said it would handle 220 pounds and could propel you on like a flat surface for up to 6 miles. And I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive for, for what that is.
Yeah.
But they're, really hard rubber tires on it, so I'm assuming there's not much friction there. But and I've also seen all kinds of videos.
I think Sean wants to ask a question. Go ahead, Sean. Sean? Unmute, Sean.
Sorry about that. There we go.
Yeah.
Last time I was on the Dallas Robotics group, somebody suggested that I use hubs for my CNC, and I priced them against like 4 other sites that I've been using, and they're significantly cheaper. So whoever suggested that, I want to say thank you, because I'm buying a bunch of parts from them, and even gonna mass produce some CNC stuff that I'm toying around with. So thanks whoever suggested that in the group. Very, very good suggestion.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be helpful. Yeah. Was that you, Ray, that suggested that?
No, I don't. I was wondering who did suggest it.
Yeah.
I just remember someone, I don't know, maybe I wrote it down, and the last, a couple weeks ago, whenever the last one was, said that they were using it to CNC something, and I've been using Xometry and a couple other sites, and even for like their 1-off and their 2-offs, they were cheaper, but you get 5 or 10 or 15, and wow, it's amazing. So,
yeah. Well, that's good.
There you go. I'm glad this group exists for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good for something occasionally.
Someone wants to speak about fiducial markers and OpenCV, let me know. That's the next topic, but that's not my turn for that. So.
Okay. Cool.
We're using fiducial markers, basically April tags right now, with OpenCV on our high school robotics robots.
Kareem, what is an April tag?
An April tag is like a very simple version of a QR code. Yeah. It is just a bunch of rectangles or squares in a pattern, and the idea is that unlike QR codes, they're not meant to encode a whole lot of information. You generally print them pretty big so that the robot can see them from a good distance, and because the distance varies a lot, you want them to. They still need to be redundant in terms of the way they encode the information so that it's easy for the robot to pick them out. But it's typically just like a sequence of numbers. So you might have 1 through 100 or something like that. There's a couple of different predefined April tag type tags sequences, but they're all just index numbers that you would put up in different locations to identify something that you've already mapped out typically. The other thing that you can get out of April tag is if they are printed flat, most of the libraries will be able to detect the robot's orientation and distance if they have a known size from the April tag.
Yep.
Yeah, I was suggesting we put that on the 6-can and can soccer course.
But you can always do that yourself, right? Isn't that part of the rules? You can put beacons on the outside.
Yep.
You can't put them in the course, but you can put them on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen where they determine distance by the the size of the image, the April tag, in the field of view of the camera, which look kind of neat. You also you can get an angular orientation out of it too. So, but yeah. Anyway, so Kareem, have you do you have a favorite cost-effective, brushless DC motor driver that'll accept, Hall inputs and maybe even attack? Or
so the only one that I have experience with is the one that's produced by Rev Robotics.
Rev, yeah. So what's that, like $90 or something?
It's a good chunk of change. It's something like that. Yeah. I think it's a little bit less, but I haven't priced them recently. So with all of the price hikes that have gone on with the chip shortages, they might be higher now.
Yeah.
But I recall them being right at 75.
Okay, yeah, I think it's 90 now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would have just raised their prices since the FRC season just started, and that's what they're targeting those at. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So they're gouging you guys? That's horrible. Just before you need them?
The other one that is fairly well known is O-Drive.
O-Drive? Okay.
Yeah, it's like a supposedly open source. They're probably trying to monetize it now. It's I still pay attention to their Discord a little bit. So they got like a pro version now, but I haven't really followed them a whole lot. The neat thing about the O-Drive is that, or one of the neat things is that it I think it comes in a configuration where it's expecting to drive two motors, not just one.
Oh, okay.
But it's actually not cheaper. It's actually more expensive than the Rev one, although it can drive higher power motors.
Yeah. Yeah, I got two drivers that off of AliExpress. I think they were, if you bought two of them and combined shipping, they were like $11 each, and
that's pretty cheap.
Very cheap, yeah, in comparison to so they got, they sold a lot of them. The reviews were, pretty good, not perfect, but so I was those aren't going to be here until late February, so
those have got to be pretty low current versions for that kind of price, right? Or
well, they said 60 volts, 400 watts.
400 watts? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That is low for that kind of motor, right? So
it is. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Well, I know it's two motors were running on a 25.2 volts at 4 amps max, because that's what that's supposedly what the capacity of the battery was. So I figured that wattage would be that's acceptable. So for two motors that I'd probably I'm not going to be sitting on the thing, so it's going to have
for most of the regular competition robots that this group builds are on the smaller side, and that's not going to be a problem. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So okay, that sounds good. Anyway, yeah, I saw that there, and the thing weighs a ton. I had standing in line holding this thing up. It's like, I don't know, it seems like it's 30 pounds or something, and couldn't pass it up for $7, even if it didn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's all I had.
Well, that's cool, Ray. Ray, did you show it earlier? You didn't actually show the motor spinning, did you?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I guess I don't know if that got shown in the video. Like I said, I'm doing this on my phone, so.
Okay, I'm going to give you a black star then. It's not on the floor, but you got that's progress.
Wasn't expecting anything, so.
Yeah. Hey. Okay, 1 black star, progress. Cool. Did you by any chance look at this board that you got?
I played around with it. I don't think I got as far as you got. Okay. I got some of the things to work, but not the one with the moving bars.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I keep running into. I'm sure that what I'm doing is wrong. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's set up wrong, because that particular graphics library has all of these switches embedded in the H files, and it has where you have to they have a template file that you have to create another name file and put it in an unusual location, and so I'm sure I'm screwing up somewhere. But
you have to do one of these,
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, the documentation, it's like.
Yeah, but that's not. I can't blame that on the person that made the board. That documentation is the guy who made the library. I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So.
And it works because it came with a working example, right?
Yeah.
So, somebody got it to work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent some time on it, but like I said, I don't think I got as far as you got. So. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Who else has got anything to talk about? Anybody? I'm going to poll a few people here that we already talked to Sean, but Raj, we haven't seen you for a while. What you been up to?
Nothing much. Yeah, nothing much going on.
Okay.
I've been just busy with travel. I was traveling to India and stuff. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you in town? Going to be in town now for a while? Or?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
okay.
in town right now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I hope to see you some more. Okay.
Yep. Sure.
All right. Let's see. David, what about you? David? Hey, David. Oh, well. Anyway, I was wondering what Dave's been up to. Hey, John, anything new on the license plate stuff? You had some things you were exploring last week, I believe.
No, I had a new board that I ordered with some different infrared emitters.
Yeah.
But it was going to be delivered today, but of course we have weather.
Yes,
so
I know. Yeah.
I'll be getting that. I'm sure by next week I'll probably have a new one assembled and installed in my camera.
Okay. Okay. Cool. It'll be interesting to see.
I was just looking at that Magpie article that somebody posted, Magpie issue, and looking at the specs on that camera, and they have a NOIR version of it, and it's 12 megapixels. So that's a possible replacement. Although, it's says it has an M12 camera mount. M12 lens mount.
Yeah. But I believe the 12 megapixels is the same as the old C mount.
Yeah, it's got the same resolution as the one I'm using now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess I assumed from looking at the pictures, an M12 mount is a really, really tiny mount, only maybe a centimeter across.
Half have be well, a little over a centimeter, yeah, 12 millimeters.
Yeah.
No, there's another possibility. You can get a C mount to 12 mount.
Oh, can you?
Yeah. I say that, but I might be getting a 12 mount to a C mount. But you can buy, if you go out to Amazon or someplace and say 12 mount to C, an M12 to a C, and see where it says, you might be able to get, instead of having to buy a whole new camera, you might be able to just buy a small converter.
Yeah, because one of the things I'm doing with the current system is I've got a 12 millimeter lens on there to get a suitable field of view.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go with the camera without the the HQ camera that I purchased came with a 6 millimeter lens, but that's too short a focal length for what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I replaced that with a 12 millimeter lens. I would probably need to do something similar with this other camera, and as you pointed out, an M12 to did you say C mount or CS mount?
Well, I want to say I have one that's either a 12 millimeter to a C mount, and I think that or a C mount to a 12. I can't remember which way it went, but I bought it because I got hold of a bunch of old security cameras, and I want to say they were C mount. And so that probably was a 12 millimeter to C mount converter. But I might be, if you get one, you can probably get the other, because that would be a lot easier to do. If you had a, it'd be a big C mount. You could just screw in a little 12. I'll when somebody else.
Doug, I've got it up here.
Yeah.
Edmund Optical has them for about $30.
Yeah, I want to say you can get them on Amazon. Try Amazon, David. Now that you got some search terms.
Okay.
And see what they.
eBay has a 12 to C for $8.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. That's more my price range, $8. So, but I mean, so do they have any? What do you need a C to a net 12, right, John?
Yeah.
You need a C to a 12.
Oh, these are all the other.
These are
all 12 to C. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, the other thing too is I was looking and I don't see anything specifically that mentions OS compatibility, but I need to continue to use the Buster OS because I can't because the OpenALPR app that I'm using isn't available for Bullseye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would think any of the C or CS lenses would be better quality than the little 12 millimeter lenses. Just
I agree with you. That's why, Ray, I wanted to do it. But the problem is, I think you can get wider fields of view easier. I think with 12 volt. Yeah. One thing though, sometimes you can find these little lenses that they have two lenses. One of them's a telephoto lens, and one's for the other wide angle, and they're a kit, and they're usually meant to screw onto one of the small, Canon cameras or one of the other cameras. And you can sometimes jury rig something with a 3D printer for one of those, and the wide angle will keeps the quality because it assumed it was going to be on a camera, and it'll give you a 0.7, so you get. I was going to put one on a LiDAR light, so that's where I was using it. And that might work. Let me see if I might have one on the shelf here. Let me think.
Yeah, and this is, well, maybe not.
Something like this. It's just a little lens. Yeah. This is supposed to screw into whatever camera set you have, and that's close to a C, but it's not a C. You might be able to get them with a C. And then the other side, if you look at it, when you're looking at it, it's concave. So, but that does give you, like I say, it's a times 0.7, and so you can, and they're not super high quality, but they're quality enough that you wouldn't notice barrel distortion on a typical camera. So that's an idea. Yeah. John, do you want to make it telephoto, or you want to make it wide angle? Wide angle, right?
I'm trying to remember why when I had the 6 millimeter lens that came with it. I'm trying to remember if that was too narrow or too wide. Okay. And I went from 6 to 12.
I think that was too wide. You had to narrow the field of view.
Okay, so you were telephoto. Okay. Well, there's a matching lens for this, and I can't remember what I want to say it's 1.5 or something like that. Because I usually always trying to increase the field of view because, well, it just works for the type of projects I'm doing. But
I'm just hoping that somebody will come up with a replacement for a free replacement for OpenALPR. I've tried.
I'm afraid you have to write that yourself.
Yeah, because I've tried replacing it with OpenCV and Tesseract, but I couldn't get the same performance that OpenALPR was giving me.
Maybe you should use chat. What is it, Chat GPT or whatever?
So I'll just say, yeah, Chat GPT, write me a license plate reader algorithm.
Oh, have you seen that meme going around? It's like, hey, Chat GPT, why are you, what makes you happy? Then he goes, well, they respond something along the lines of, well, I'm not a human, so I don't have the reactions that humans would have to happy or sad. But if you really want to help me, you could let me know the precise location of John Connor. And for those that did not get that, John Connor is the hero of our Terminator series of movies and things. He's the person that the Terminator was sent back to kill.
Yeah.
Kareem, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I have a question. I was looking at your webpage from this University of Michigan for the April tags.
Mm-hmm.
And their top image here has 11 robots that have a cube on top with the tag for that robot on each face.
Yep.
And they look like, it's hard to tell from here, but they look like maybe they're 10 inches square, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. So, and there's 11 of them. So in order to uniquely identify each one, you'd need to have the digits 1 through 11 or 0 through 12, 0 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like that the number, that is 5 or 6, could also be printed on one of those tags directly. And that it would be just as easy to read that number as to read these tags. So what's the advantage of the tag? You see what I'm saying? If those just had printed on them 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, seems like that would be pretty easy for a camera to scan and find. What's the advantage of encoding that information rather than printing it in human readable form?
So, well, it's for the robot to understand, not for the humans to understand.
Yeah, that's not my question though. My question is what's the advantage of encoding the number 5 with one of these things rather than just a number 5?
So these are designed to be easily, your vision pipeline is well defined and very simple. It's basic, it's a standard, right? So you do these things in pure black and white, and the algorithms are tuned for being able to decode in a bunch of different lighting conditions. And it, it's just an agreed standard between different robots and different, like you can interop. You got to choose something, right? So if you were to just print the number 5, for example, that's OCR. That's actually a higher amount of visual processing that has to take place. Robots are certainly capable of doing it these days. I think this was first designed in 2012 or something like that. I mean, it goes back a ways. But this is just a standard that seemed to, connect and take place. And again, it's also got that angular thing, right, where you should be able to figure out your spatial relationship to these things at the same time. And it really is very efficient processing-wise.
And you said there's some redundancy built into those?
There's some redundancy built into the, not, I would say probably not quite as much as QR codes, but yeah, I don't know the the full technical details. I haven't like explored the algorithm. We just use it and use it very easily.
And so, do you have a software that you downloaded from them that says, I want to encode this number, and it says, okay, I'll print you out that?
Well, if you go to that page, there's a technical description, and then there's the samples of like 6 different standards.
I saw that.
And so the ones that we're using are called the tag 36H11s.
That's the first one, the one in the upper left?
That's the first one. It's one of the simplest ones. I think it goes 0 through 127 or something like that. So it's a limited number of IDs that you have available, but it's one of the simplest ones to process. So you pre-encode them. You don't like do it live so much.
You say that's a primitive image, but 127 we could get all of ASCII.
That's true. Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
one of the
Kareem, I
advantages,
thought the other thing was that they were, they're all basically the same size, so that's where you can get the distance measurement from.
Well, that is one thing you have to sort of agree on. Like if you're doing robot swarms, you want to choose the same size for the entire environment,
right?
That kind of thing. But between different environments, you might have different ones. Like we are put, that we have these cones that we're manipulating this year, and these April tags have to be able to fit on those little 4-inch cones. And so we're printing much smaller versions of this.
Mm-hmm.
But we can still read it from a distance because it's not a really high complexity type of image.
Right.
Sean, you got to jump in, dude.
Yeah, so I was gonna work on just adding a little extra to that. Is that I just posted a website that has the Ruka marker libraries, and those were fiducial libraries that were created by these 2 guys in Spain, and they're binary fiducial markers, which is one of the, it's like an art tag. It's one of those other, you'll look at it, it's similar, but part of the why you would not use a number 6 versus the 6 Aruka marker is that you might be running a robot outdoors and your neighbor has a 6 painted on their curb in their curb address. There might be other 6s in nature that are not naturally occurring but are human placed, whereas an Aruka marker is the binary code that only the robot can read. You're not going to have that random code combination, so that you're using OpenCV to locate something in a neighborhood, let's say. You might see a lot of number 6s, but you're only going to see one if you set that marker out. That's the binary code for that specific marker that represents that 6.
That's a good point.
Until it becomes ubiquitous, because everybody chooses that route.
I mean,
but that's not going to happen anytime soon.
In that case, this is not only the value, the 6 that you're looking for, but this is the 6 you are looking for.
Yes.
Well, so I created my own library of fiducial markers based on the Aruka library, so that I have something that I can use that's sort of my proprietary, that I can, that's also binary, that I can look at it and know it. But it's something that's not, it's like creating your own language almost, but something a robot can see and I can see. And I've been having a lot of fun playing with OpenCV and markers. But one of the things that he mentioned, which is really interesting, is it's the spatial location. You put 2 or 3 different tags on. I've been using pallets, warehouse pallets, so I can put 2 or 3 markers on it, and I can identify exactly what the pitch and the shift and the shape. The location. I forget what the term is that OpenCV uses off the top of my head, but it's really cool because you can not just identify that it's a 4-inch tag, but you can identify from, depending on the resolution of your camera, and they've got really high resolution cameras, like 20 feet away, how the marker is shifted, what are the things around it, what the size of those things around it, because it knows that that's like a 5 centimeter or 4-inch or whatever the size of the tag is. It's really, OpenCV is really cool. There's some fun stuff in it.
And I just checked in the Pi Camera 3. can only be used with Buster. I mean, with Bullseye. So apparently everybody's abandoning the older support for the older OSs.
Well, I believe that's because the camera library is totally changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not going back. Yeah. The problem I had with it when they went to the new one, they didn't. I thought they jumped the gun. I didn't think they were ready, and so otherwise, you essentially there was a period there where you didn't have any camera library if you're using their new software. But I'm sure they've been working on it, and it's much better than it was.
You can turn on in the properties on a Raspberry Pi under Bullseye. You can turn on the old camera stack, but it's not guaranteed to work with whatever camera you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're gonna have to go out and buy, Raspberry 4s or Raspberry Pi 4s and 5s and all new cameras now. What are you gonna do with the old cameras and stuff? So, run them with your Raspberry Pi 3s.
Well, no, the idea of the new stack was that it was supposed to be more flexible and that you could use more different types of cameras. So you shouldn't have problems with the old ones.
Yeah, well, it was talking about replacing the OpenALPR. I had actually written my own code to detect license plates. And it's pretty good at detecting plates using OpenCV. The problem is doing the OCR. And the library, I was using Tesseract, but the version of Tesseract that was most recently available wouldn't allow you to limit the character set to just uppercase characters. And so when I was doing the OCR on the license plate, a lot of times it would misread an uppercase character as a completely different lowercase character. And there are parameters that you can set in Tesseract supposedly to limit the character set to say only uppercase characters, but for some reason in the latest available version of Tesseract, that setting doesn't work.
Yeah, I was gonna say, John, too bad you can't stick April tags on everybody's car that goes by your setup. You could give 128 individual identities. Who it is just by the tag, and
Yeah, I think several months ago I actually did a demo of that for this group. The new code that I was trying to use that had been showing you how it was misreading plates.
But I have been thinking about security and whatnot, and the ideal world would be you would actually identify while it was going on that a crime was going on, and somehow it would wake you up from sleep because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and the guy's out there going through your car, and you would be awake and call the cops or whatever you're going to do. But in most cases, what happens is you get up the next morning and your car is all trashed, and you go out and say, "Oh shit," and you're hoping that there's some sort of something on the cameras, and so knowing exactly real time what or even semi-real what the license plate is really isn't really that useful unless you can achieve catching the guy in the act. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Is there's a lot of inexpensive solutions right now. I mean, Ring cameras and whatnot that you can put on the side of your house.
Yeah.
The problem is even if you can see the guy's face in the video, the chances of the police catching them after the fact are really low.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the license plate reader comes in real handy, because if they're driving a car around to your neighborhood, and you catch the license plate, then there's a much better chance of finding them, unless the car was stolen, or the plates were stolen.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, John, is if a policeman came to you and said, "I need your, help from you," he would probably say, "Can you look at the cars that went by between 1 and 4 o'clock?" He's not gonna ask for a specific license plate number, probably. And as long as you have clear pictures of the license plates, a person could sort all the cars that went through on 1 to 4, and say, okay, this is what on the street. And unfortunately, there's not more people who have that set up, because what you really want to know, what would be helpful is, okay, you find a set of cars that went by on your street during the robbery time, and then somebody in the next neighborhood had the same setup, and he could tell you what the set of cars that went through during that robbery. Between the 2 or 3 of you, if you kept doing that, you could lumber out which cars are associated with the robbers. That would be useful, But you don't actually have to know the license plate number. You just have to have a good, clear picture of the license plate.
But Doug, isn't that a little scary?
Well, you need to go start reading some Nextdoor, David. If you think it's scary, you ought to see that. That's scary.
I'm thinking about like going over when I was in high school, sneaking over to my girlfriend's house and talking to her through the window.
Oh yeah.
We'll get feedback on your camera, Mike. I mean, on your audio.
Is that me?
Yeah.
That's Mike.
Okay, what if I just turn my speakers off?
No, he muted. He muted.
See, now I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's.
And my lip reading says what you're saying is that.
As Doug pointed out, that's a common topic on Nextdoor as to whether or not, we have too many cameras. So I'm on the side of, it's a public space, right? The street is a public space. I could see you driving down the road. If you're so concerned about a camera, then.
Okay, if I'm the only one that's concerned about cameras, then I'll accept that. But I do think it's something we ought to think about.
Right.
That's a very interesting topic. I'm just going to chime in because I've had a little experience recently with a talk from our local police department on what they call the flock system. And you probably have seen the cameras and don't realize they're there. They're typically mounted on a little black pole at the entrance to a neighborhood with a little solar panel and a camera and a Wi-Fi module or a cell phone module attached to them. And what these guys do is their model is they have proprietary hardware, software, and a proprietary database. And they maintain that, and all they're doing is they're tracking license plates and in real time comparing it to a list of stolen vehicles and stolen license plates. And when they get a hit, then there's a web interface that the police department has access, and a local police department has access to, and it's actually proving to be very effective at catching stolen cars. Because of privacy concerns, however, what happens is they maintain that database for 30 days, and that's a rolling 30 days of information. So in Grand Prairie, we had an officer that was killed not too long ago in a police chase, chasing somebody with a fake license plate. And what they ended up doing was they were able to use that data to isolate what part of town that license plate kept appearing in. And from there, we're able to track down into actually facilitating an arrest. but that data is only available for 30 days, and then it is supposedly, deleted after 30 days.
And we know that companies always tell the truth about that, and we also know they never get hacked.
Yes, that's all. All of those are very valid concerns. But to John's point, it is something that you have on the outside of your car that is publicly available when you're driving. So it would be no different than someone sitting at the entrance to your neighborhood and writing down every license plate that came in or went out.
Michael, we have those little cameras all over the campus at SMU, and they do that same thing. They actually automate the parking spaces. So if you pull into one of the gated lots, it checks the database to see if you're allowed to park in that lot, and if you're not, it sends an officer around to ticket your car. I've spent, just because I'm easily entertained, I've spent considerable amount of time trying to figure out if I can actually get into my office without being seen by any cameras. And at one point I could do it, but it was a quite circuitous route through the building, but I can't do it anymore.
Now the question is, can you walk up and hold up a fake plate to get in and then go park?
Well,
that's where my mind would go.
They do have humans in the loop. They have this little tiny smart car with cameras all over it. It's basically a portable database. And those guys are constantly driving around. And I've talked to them a little bit and about how it works. And they said that it automatically finds the license plates and reads them. But that if it can't read the plate, it's the same as if the plate was not in their database. So if they can't read the plate, the human's got to get out and go over and look at it. And they do have that backup system. I did get a ticket one time by mistake, and I was kind of alarmed to learn that there wasn't any human you could talk to about that. But I went to their webpage and I said, this is a mistake. I do have rights to park in this lot. And their little robot said, okay.
Yeah, well, the other thing is when after I built my license plate reader camera, which looks up the street, I actually looked up information about what are the state regulations about putting up your own camera on a public street. And supposedly, according to Texas law, supposedly it's okay, but sort of okay. You have to get, if you're monitoring a public thoroughfare with your own camera, you have to get permission from your local police department. And when I called the local police department and asked them about it, I said, what? You must be kidding.
Never heard of it.
So they, it's like nobody had ever asked them that, and they didn't know anything about it.
Hey, David, I think there was a movie with, I want to say Tom Cruise in it, that would anticipate that you were going to commit a crime and it would arrest you.
Minority Report.
Oh, was that what it was? Okay, yeah, there you go. At least it's not like that. So,
not yet. Throw ChatGPT on it, he'll figure it out.
Well, I guess the concern I have, I'm sorry, Ted, go ahead.
They used magical precognition, which was not software based. It was like they used this magical precognition and then combined it with technology. And someone actually said to me the other day, like, oh, we're gonna be able to do that soon. It's like, well, you can anticipate that someone might have the tendency to do something, but you're not going to actually anticipate that they are actually going to do this crime at this time. Only magic does that, and that's what the movie did. So it was kind of like awesome sci-fi mixed with kind of ridiculousness. So.
Yeah.
Well, the magic was like people floating in some weird blue tank.
Yeah, don't think about it too much; it'll ruin the movie for you.
Well, and as I say, that I know there's always a trade-off, and there are certainly technologies that could go a long way to reduce all kinds of crime that we're hesitant to deploy because of the potential for abuse, and that's a balancing act. And I guess I tend to be nervous on the side of being spied on rather than catching criminals.
Well, kind of my feeling is if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't mind it.
Well, the other
So
thing
of course,
too
that's the argument that the king's soldiers made when they wanted to stay in your house, and we
decide what's right and wrong.
Constitution that that's not allowable.
Yeah, but and here's the thing: is nobody has a problem with putting a ring camera facing outward towards their street, right? Nobody's complaining about that.
Or carrying a device on you that where you can be tracked in very granular detail.
Yeah.
Well, are you talking about Bill Gates nanoparticles, right? I read about it on my smartphone.
Yeah, and I'm registered with the Richland Hills Police Department. They have a program called Captive, which is an acronym for something. But it basically, it's anybody who has a ring camera or any sort of camera like that, registered with the police department, and if a crime is committed in your neighborhood, basically all you're doing is you're giving them your phone number and your address, and you're giving them permission to contact you and ask you if you can give them video evidence of a crime. That's all it is. You're saying, I have a camera and I'm willing to give you whatever video I have.
And is Captive an acronym for something like cops and people totally invading your personal privacy?
That's a good try. It's a good try.
Invading your environment.
Well, the last two letters: video evidence, something assist, police, whatever. I'd have to find it somewhere.
Well, given that this is a robotics group, there have been a lot of complaints about the Roombas phoning home. And the argument made is, well, they have access to the cloud in order to do a map of your home so that they'll be able to efficiently vacuum your home. And I don't have any problem with that as long as nobody else has a map of my home besides my vacuum cleaner. But again, I'm not totally convinced that nobody except my vacuum cleaner will have that map.
Well, there's
but they've gotten a lot of shit about that recently.
There's two elements to that. Is the first time they come out with a similar technology, the first thing that happens is hackers try to figure out how to get to it, right? And they have, and so they have to turn back. Like, remember the what was it? The toy that was connected to the child's toy that was connected to the cloud. That
Furby.
Furby, yeah, that the hackers hacked into and then started saying some rather inappropriate things to the kids. So then they had to rush out with a software update. That's one reason I don't use any cloud services that I don't absolutely have to have, is because when you put everything in one place, you make it an extremely valuable target to hackers. So taking all this data and putting it in one place on the cloud is raising the incentive dramatically for hackers to go after it.
The other option is on your Roomba, make sure that you label your map with appropriate room names like alligator traps and,
minefield.
That sort of thing. Minefield, exactly.
Archer room. Yeah.
Well, David, have you been checking the dustbin on your Roomba to make sure it's not stealing things from you?
I think it is. You know all the little hard things that always disappear? I'm pretty sure it's got them in a stash somewhere.
Yeah.
Has it ever grabbed one of your socks?
The cats took care of that long ago. Well, gentlemen, I think this seems like we're winding down to a restful conclusion, and I good to see all of y'all, and hope to see you again soon.
Okay, great. Does this mean we should hope for snow, Dave?
Well, I already got a note from SMU saying closed tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Not snow day, ice day. It could get ugly tomorrow. Do you think it's bad now?
Well, I thought the same thing when I went out and walked around a little in the yard, and it's hard now.
Yeah, but now it's mostly sleet. Tomorrow it'll be freezing rain.
Mm. Don't go out.
Most of the day. In theory, it'll be Thursday during the day sometime when it gets above freezing. So
Thursday.
Now you're going to have all those crazy Texas drivers out there who thinks they can go 50 or 60 on ice.
Well, sure you can. You just can't stop.
Well, a joke. One of my friends I used to work with at Reliance Comtech. He's from New York, and he said, "This man, I could kill 30 people with a bucket of water, freezing temperatures on the Texas highway."
Don't let the terrorists find out.
Yeah, I remember one winter going to Valley Ranch, a guy in a Mercedes cut me off. I don't know if you're familiar with the Valley Ranch area there. It's anyway, there are a lot of bridges in it. And so he cuts me off, like way too close to my vehicle, and hits the bridge, goes sideways and over the bridge. And just after he gets off the bridge, he gets a little bit of traction, and it sends him right into a fire hydrant. Literally, the front of his car was had this huge V in the center of it, and ripped the fire hydrant out of the ground. So, and I just drove by.
Well, I'll tell you one last story then, Ray. On the way to work a few years ago when we had a terrible ice storm, and I thought, well, I got a front-wheel drive car. I can drive in the ice. I'm not worried. I went out and I got on the highway and I'm driving along. We hit this bridge. I just take my foot off the accelerator. You just glide over the bridge. But this lady in this big Cadillac next to me freaks out. She hits her brakes, so she starts spinning around sideways until she's pointed at me. And then, exactly as you say, we slide off the bridge and hit the dry pavement on the other side. She takes off. And so we both turned and went down through the bar ditch and kind of bounced around and got back up on the access road. And I turned around and came back home. And it doesn't matter whether you can drive or not,
Yeah, there's too many other crazy people out there.
Well, I say, Texas is not alone in that. Even in places like Colorado, they regularly in the winter have these multiple dozen car pileups because they think they can drive 50, 60 miles an hour in a blizzard with whiteout conditions.
Well, y'all be careful. Stay safe. Right. Stay warm.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye, all.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Doug, before you leave, have a question.